Hi, I'm Amy Andrews. I am the author of Love and Salt, A Spiritual Friendship Shared in Letters, which is a recent Loyola Press book. And I'm standing in for Vanita Hampton-Wright. And I'm thrilled to be here with Jennifer Grant. Jennifer is a widely published writer and columnist. And she has a new book coming out with Loyola Press, Wholehearted Living, 5-Minute Reflections for Modern Moms. And we're going to be discussing that book today. So I thought, since you've written so much about motherhood, that we could start out by just hearing a little bit about the makeup of your family.
Sure. I'm the mother of 4, and my kids I have daughters who are 12 and 14 years old, and sons who are 16 and 18.
Do you feel like writing this book changed you as a parent?
Yeah, writing it was a real discipline because there are so many chapters, and because I had to delve into a lot of different personal things that I asked readers to delve into. But yeah, I think that, some of the things that I revisit include, being mindful, remembering to breathe, remembering to be playful with our kids. Mm-hmm. And I think it refreshed me in that way. I was reminded why it's important to do those things,
right,
but more importantly, how much fun it is.
Right.
So it did change me, and I felt recalibrated after having written it.
I love the way you organized it into these 3 sections. It's reflect, risk, and rest, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things I was struck by in that first section was the range of topics. I'm used to devotional books or reflections being more streamlined or more on a particular theme, mm-hmm. but instead you go through texting and email and decluttering and grief and loneliness all sort of mixed together, mm-hmm. and I thought that was incredible, mm-hmm. and such a unique aspect of this book. And I wondered if that was a conscious decision to sort of really cast your net wide.
Yeah, it was. I was looking at our spiritual selves, which are, of course, completely integrated and affected by our day-to-day moments. And so, the amount a child texts or how much we unplug or
right.
plug in does affect our spirit.
Right.
And, if we live in a house that we feel is cluttered and we feel frustrated by it, that affects our spirit. I tried to write about those very specific things.
Yeah, and I thought that really, just by that choice, you really sent the message to women that our spirituality is not something sort of cloistered and set aside, but it's something that really is spread out. And that if we're going to find our spiritual path, it's going to be in the midst of all of these things.
That's right.
And it's going to be affected, like you just said, by all of these different things.
And as moms, we can't really separate. We can't take a month off and go to a monastery and pray.
Right.
We have to find a moment here or there. Yeah.
Exactly. I was wondering how you hoped, ideally, a reader would use this book.
I hope a reader will have it sort of handy, and then if there's a moment in the day, because each reading is so short, it's only 200 words or fewer, and so it's not a big commitment. It's not something that I picture somebody leaning on the counter and between things, or, the water's boiling for macaroni and cheese and she can read this and that have something to think about and reflect on during the day that isn't about parenting and it isn't about, meeting her kids' needs. It's about sort of reflecting who she is.
Right.
And the book might be sticky because her kids had sticky hands and have been holding it, or it might have been open next to them when they were coloring, and so there's stray crayon marks on it. Right. I hope it'll be sort of an easy companion to them throughout the day.
Vanita actually sent some questions along as well, and I thought we could talk a little bit about those. Mm-hmm. Her interest is really in the generations of women, mm-hmm. and first of all, in your interactions with the grandparents, with your mm-hmm. mother, and mm-hmm. with your mother-in-law, what would you want to hear from them? What kinds of things would you want them to say to you?
I think as moms, all of us probably most often want to hear words of affirmation.
Yes.
And you're doing a good job.
Right.
You're okay. Everything's going to be all right. Sometimes when they idealize what it was like to parent us, it can feel kind of lonely because we think, well, that's not how it is for me right now.
Right.
And obviously we all look back and we remember the wonderful, precious times with our new babies, and we forget being up all night with colic or something like that. So I think our mothers do the same, and we'll do the same to our kids.
Yes.
But sometimes it can feel discouraging, you know, if all of their memories seem rose-colored or through rose-colored glasses, and ours are a little bit more messy and raw.
Now.
Right, and we're really struggling.
Right.
It can feel disheartening.
Right. So bringing it back to the book, could you see a grandmother reading this book?
Yeah, I could. Actually, I was just speaking to a friend of mine who said, oh, I'm giving that book to my mom, who's a grandmother.
Right.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the practices in it and a lot of the reflections aren't specifically about mothering, although I assumed that a lot of the readers would be mothers.
Right.
They're about all kinds of things. They're about being present, and they're about being mindful, and they're about, you know, looking at self-care and looking at, you know, expressing ourselves creatively and so on.
Right.
So that could be for any woman.
You know, and I was also thinking recently, my sister's been going through a really hard time, and I feel like it's really hard on my mother, and she's still parenting.
Right.
She's 70, almost 75, and she's still parenting, and I think she's still going through the anxiety and the concern and, you know, too many phone calls or, you know, the same sorts of questions.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right.
Yeah.
We'll be doing this a long time.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, Jen, it's been so great having you here.
It's been fun to talk.
Yeah, and having this chance to hear about the book, which I am very much looking forward to buying. So, thank you all for joining us for Days of Deepening Friendship, and I hope you will enjoy the book too.